Hey everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Conversations with Mary Jane. It's me, Jill Franquelli, and today it's just me, Jill Franquelli. So I'm here today to tell a little bit of a story. So on December 10th, I had a great opportunity to travel to New York and meet with a very spectacular human being. Her name's Patricia Morano. And she has this complete fitness revolution, and it really focuses on the mind, body, and spirit connection. And so I saw her last year at Best Year Ever, which is where I am today in San Diego. And I won an opportunity to spend a day with her. And so that's what I did on December 10th. So obviously I'm a little nervous doing this because this is a big moment that Patricia asked me to do. So I just want to give a little more color and context as I calm down for just a moment. So anyway, I'm up there, we're having lunch, and the whole reason why I went to see her was because this moment, every time I start a podcast, every time I go to do something, I have what's almost crippling fear. You can hear it in my voice, you can hear it shake. And I watched her as she would get on stage and be able to yell in her power, and I saw no embarrassment, I saw no nerves. So I thought if there's someone who could help me with that, it would be her. So I went to talk to her and thinking she could give me all the answers in the world, that there would be just a trick. Like maybe I needed to meditate more, or maybe I needed to read another book or do something before I started this that would help my nerves. However, she figured it out for me. So I want to talk about the difference between pride and courage and what it means to be brave. So as you all know, I've lost a shit ton of weight. And so I'm very comfortable saying that I was 300 pounds and now I'm 195 because I've accomplished something and I don't really have the shame of being overweight anymore because I'm working towards that. So every time I say that, I thought I was being very courageous. And every time I post a before and after picture, I would think I was being very courageous. But that's not courage, because it was already completed. What would have been courageous if I would have shared something, or maybe shared as I started? Maybe that was a before picture only and not a before and after, where I could get those compliments, where shame and all of those feelings about that would be overcome with such pride for something I did. So as we discussed that, we started to talk about shame. And so Patricia asked me a question, and she said, well, I think you're nervous because you still feel like you have things hidden that you don't want people to know about. And with that shame comes a nervousness, especially when you're sitting in front of a camera, maybe talking just to a camera. And so she asked me point blank to give her the things that if anybody knew, maybe they wouldn't be my friend, or these are all my words, or maybe they wouldn't like me as much anymore, or maybe this would be the one thing that would cause somebody not to care. So I've always held those in. And so despite what I feel like has been an amazing couple of year transformation, I still really, really struggle with not just the physical consequences of being overweight, but the mental ones of being overweight as well, and some of those shameful moments. So at Patricia's charge, she said, once I shared those most horrible secrets that I thought, and I cried quite a bit doing it, she says, now you're gonna do a podcast and tell everybody those things. And me being a very good student and liking to be the teacher's pet, I said yes immediately, because that is the reaction that I wanted, was her to be happy that I would do that. However, deep inside, despite having told Patricia those things and receiving nothing but love, I still was scared shitless, as I am today. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do this. So right now I'm gonna tell you all the things that I just feel like if people knew about me, maybe they wouldn't like me as much. So I'm gonna start out with just a little backstory, just in case you haven't heard. So I grew up with a mother who, until I was 37, thought she just had a terminal illness. I didn't know that she was addicted to fentanyl and morphine and other opioids. So because of that, over the last couple of years, because I was in major denial, I've had to unpack a lot of things that have happened. And through that, I've come up with some things that have probably, maybe even you have noticed, have affected my connection with other human beings because I put up a wall. So if anyone really pays attention to me, and I've said this on almost every podcast, I'm a marketer at heart. So I can do extremely well-written, scripted things to say. And I've created, like I said, what I thought was a life of courage, but it was more one of pride, just sharing with you the things I was most prideful about. So the first thing is I have an extreme lack of connection with humans. It's very hard for me to connect. I get very nervous. In fact, the fact that I even do this or have done anything that I do surprises me every fucking day of my life. And the reason those connections are so hard are because of a few things. So the first one was I was extremely addicted to sugar. I remember, and not just in a way that someone says like, oh, I'm a sugar addict, but I remember the first time an adult said this to me. It was a recovering alcoholic, and I was babysitting his kid, and I was 14 years old, and this guy told me this, and I didn't know what this meant, and I grew up extremely religious, and so I only attributed addiction to bad things. And that was really the first moment that shame came into my life, outside just being, I was heavy, so people picked on me. But that was the first time that what I thought I was doing was very bad. And that just spiraled into 2.5 decades of shameful eating that didn't cause connection, that kept me away from people, that I wouldn't do things. And I would sneak food, and I would eat in my car, and I would do all the things that someone who had an extremely poor relationship with food had. So that first thing was the first thing that really started to drive kind of a aloneness, feeling like it was me against the world. The second thing has to do with the effects of someone who is overweight. So there's a condition called PCOS, it's polycystic ovarian syndrome. So at 12 years old, I started to develop a beard as I went through puberty. So you can imagine a child who is already so has low self-esteem. When she goes through puberty, she starts to have facial hair. So, you know, it's all medical, and it's because of being overweight, and I had too much hormones and all of those things. But I didn't know that, and having a mom who was already sick, I didn't have someone to explain these things to me. So what it led to was just more shame and more disconnection in the world. In fact, you know, I like to tell things through stories. Probably a moment, kind of like that guy when I was 14, that changed probably everything I did socially, was one day. So I had a crush on a boy. I tried really hard to like boys for a long time. So I had a crush on this boy, and he came over to my house, and my mom just happened to be very loud that day, and she didn't like that I had facial hair. And you know, you're trying to explain to a teenager that they have to take care of their facial hair, but how do you do that? You wax. You have only ever seen men shave. This is way back in the early 90s. Like, I had no example of this. And so in that moment, my mom thought it would be great to say loud enough for the guy I had a crush on that before I went down there, I needed to shave my face. That was literally the last time that I ever had anybody over that I liked. I never went to overnight things. I didn't go to concerts like my friends went to. Any place where I thought I would be, where someone could see my face, someone could touch me. I stopped hugging people, all because of that one thing. Because I had a medical condition that made me have facial hair. And it's something that still, despite laser hair treatments, despite losing weight, despite all of those things, I still struggle with today. It's not as bad, but it is still probably even more so the most shameful thing that I deal with. The thing that I just, until today, until last Tuesday, only my wife and my doctor ever knew about. Well, my mom and Mark, but in my life now. And so it was just such a moment to like say that to her, and then realize to myself, like, oh my God, what if somebody would have said to me it was okay? the friends I would have had, maybe how much healthier I would have gotten faster if I would just had someone who told me it was okay. And so it's okay if you have any of those things. And what those two things, those disconnections, and really, having facial hair and this weird thing that I thought, what it led to was not just anger, but rage. And so that is today the thing that I face the most, is as all those inner demons, is all of this time that I have pushed these things down, not been able to connect with people because I felt so insecure. All that it has done is created a rage that's inside of me because I'm so disconnected. And so that one thing has to change in my life so that I can continue to move forward with the work, so that I continue to lead with love, so that I can continue to love myself, because no one wants to be angry about the things that happened to them when they're a kid because they're still holding on to such stupid shit. And so that's why I tell you this today. So, right, I was fat and a sugar addict. I think I've admitted that, but I don't think I ever said how bad it was that people actually were trying to help me. And yeah, I have facial hair, more than most girls, but that's why there's makeup and laser hair removal and all the things I do to try to make it better. It's just what my body does. And lastly, I have a rage because I was tired of people treating me shitty. Instead of working on myself, I tried to hide it with anger. So that's what I'm going to work on, is being more vulnerable. That's what courage is. I am sweating completely through all of my clothes in this moment because I know I'm going to have a huge vulnerability hangover in about 5 minutes. And I'm going to regret all of this, but I'm going to just put it out there. And I hope, this is my big hope. My hope is that some 12-year-old doesn't feel alone because they realize this is just all part of life. We have facial hair, we can be overweight, but we have the ability to change, be better, and to help one another. Thanks so much for tuning in today, especially not having a guest and listening to what my thoughts are. I appreciate everyone in this community. I appreciate everything and your courage that allowed me to have courage today and not always just pride. Thank you for tuning in.